Welcome back to Tide and Loam. I am your instructor Hassaan, and in this video we are going to study the very first component of the cell, which is cell wall. In the last video we studied about the basic structure of the cell and we learned that cell is the smallest living thing. Now cell being the smallest living thing, it needs protection और cell को protection provide करती है cell wall. So let's define cell wall. A cell wall is a rigid non-living wall around cell membrane. So cell wall एक structure है which is rigid, which means hard and non-living around cell membrane. This is the figure of cell wall. As you can see here, cell wall is a hard structure surrounding cell membrane. So cell and cell membrane is inside cell wall. It is found in bacteria, plants, fungi and some protists such as algae. सो सेल वॉल बैक्टीरियल सेल में भी है, प्लांट सेल्स में भी है, फंगल सेल्स में भी है, और नॉट इन ऑल द प्रोटिस्ट बट सम प्रोटिस्ट विच आर एक्चुअली फोटोसिंथेटिक प्रोटिस्ट algae. So cell wall is present in all these organisms, but it is absent in animal cells. Now here the question arises, why cell wall is absent in animal cells and present in plant cells? So the answer to this question is very simple. It is because of the difference in modes of living of animals and plants. As you can see here, plants are static organism. Plant अपनी पूरी life एक point पर ground में fixed ही गुजार देते हैं. Whatever they need, they get it from atmosphere or ground. Like they need water, they get it from ground. They need oxygen, they get it from atmosphere. On the other hand, animals need food. And in pursuit of food and shelter, they have to move from one place to another. अगर वो उनकी bodies movement ना करें तो they cannot move towards food, they cannot move towards a better shelter, a place to live. That's why animal cells have no cell wall and plant cells do have a cell wall. और अगर animal cells में cell wall होती, because cell wall is a hard structure, so animals एक जगह से दूसरी जगह move नहीं कर पाते. On the other hand, plant cells are static and they need extra protection. They need rigidness in their body. They need hardness. That's why cell wall is present in them. Now, what is the function of cell wall? It provides shape, strength, protection and support to inner living matter protoplasm of the cell. Protoplasm is actually cell membrane plus cytoplasm of the cell. So cell का जो cytoplasm और cell membrane मिलकर जो चीज, they are actually called protoplasm. Now cell wall provide, now look at this figure, this is a fortress in the, this is a castle, और इस castle को protection provide कर रही है ये wall. In the same way, cell को protection provide करती है cell wall. Cell wall is supporting the inner living matter protoplasm of the cell. It is protecting, it is providing strength, it is supporting and it is shaping the structure. Just as wall protects the fortress, cell wall protects the protoplasm of the cell. Next we have cell wall of the plant cell. The cell wall of plant cell is made of 3 layers. Plant cell wall की 3 layers हैं. The first layer is called primary wall, the second layer is called secondary wall and the third layer is called middle lamella. So this outer dark green layer is called primary wall. And the inner light green layer is called secondary wall. So the 2 layers of cell wall, primary wall and secondary wall. Primary wall is on the outside labeled as dark green and the secondary wall is on the inner side labeled as light green. Middle lamella is present between 2 cells, between the cell walls of 2 cells. As you can see here, this is the cell 1 and this is the cell 2. और सेल 1 और सेल 2 के दरमियान जो ये येलो लेयर है, दिस इज कॉल्ड मिडल लैमेला और ये 2 सेल्स को आपस में ज्वाइन करती है. Let's study each of these walls in more detail. So primary wall is composed of cellulose which forms fibers that cross over one another to form strong primary wall. Cellulose fiber crossover बनाते हैं. Primary wall में cellulose fibers are arranged in the form of crossovers as you can see here in the figure. Cellulose fibers in crisscross manner. Primary wall is composed of hemicellulose and pectin. So cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, all these 3 are carbohydrates. और जब भी एक प्लांट सेल दो नए सेल्स में डिवाइड होता है तो सबसे पहले जो नए सेल्स का स्ट्रक्चर बनता है इट इज एक्चुअली प्राइमरी सेल वॉल. सो प्राइमरी सेल वॉल इज द फर्स्ट वन टू फॉर्म इन न्यूली फॉर्म्ड सेल्स ऑफ प्लांट्स. Now, secondary cell wall is not present in all the cells. It is present in some plant cells, for example, xylem cells and secondary cell wall, on the inner side of primary wall, as we saw in the figure. And it is composed of cellulose, lignin and some other chemicals. जिस तरह प्राइमरी सेल वॉल सेलुलोज से मिलकर बनी है, इसी तरह सेकेंडरी सेल वॉल में भी सेलुलोज है, बट इट हैज सम अदर एडिशनल कंपाउंड्स सच एज लिग्निन and some other chemicals. Now, as you can see here in the figure, this light green on the inner side of the cell. ये जो outer side पर dark green है, this is primary cell wall, और inner side पर जो ये जो light green cell wall की layer है, this is secondary cell wall. So cell wall is present on the inner side. Now, as we know that a wall is made of cement and bricks. एक दीवार ईंटों और सीमेंट से मिलकर बनी हुई है. इसी तरह जो सेल की सेल वॉल है वो भी उसकी जो ईंटें और सीमेंट है, इट्स सीमेंट इज लिग्निन एंड इट्स ब्रिक्स आर सेलुलोज. सो प्लांट सेल वॉल में सेलुलोज, लिग्निन, हेमिसेलुलोज और पेक्टिन दे एक्ट एज सीमेंटिंग मटेरियल्स. The third layer is middle lamella, which is present between the primary walls of adjacent cells. Middle lamella holds together primary walls of adjacent cells. So middle lamella दो plant cells के दरमियान present होता है, दो plant cells की primary walls के दरमियान present होता है, और ये उन दोनों cells को together is the third layer is middle lamella. So middle lamella is present between the walls of adjacent cells. यानी कि जो दो cells एक साथ हैं उनके दरमियान जो third layer है, which it is actually middle lamella. और middle lamella holds together primary walls of adjacent cells. So it actually holds together the two cells, and it is present between the cell walls of two cells. It is composed of calcium, magnesium and pectin, and we have the same figure here. So this dark green and light green layer is of the cell wall of second cell, and this light green and dark green cell wall is of the cell 1. और cell 1 और cell 2 के दरमियान जो layer इन दोनों cells को join किए हुए हैं, that is actually middle lamella. Now we have an important topic which is actually plasmodesmata. अगर सेल वॉल एक रिजिड हार्ड स्ट्रक्चर हो तो सेल को जो मटेरियल्स चाहिए, लाइक सेल नीड्स वाटर, सेल नीड्स ऑक्सीजन एंड सेल नीड्स कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड. सो अगर सेल वॉल कंप्लीटली कॉम्पैक्ट हो तो सेल को ये मटेरियल्स किस तरह प्रोवाइड किए जाएंगे. सो जिस तरह we have the gates in the walls, cell has its own gates, its own channels which are called plasmodesmata. So plasmodesmata are the channels in the cell walls that allow the exchange of molecules between the adjacent cells. As you can see here in the figure, this is a channel. ये जो दो cells के दरमियान एक hole है, the cells actually transfer materials through these holes. And these holes are called plasmodesmata. जो सेल वॉल के दरमियान गेट हैं जिसके जरिए एक सेल दूसरे सेल को मटेरियल प्रोवाइड करता है, these gates are called plasmodesmata. Now earlier we studied that the cell wall is present in bacteria, cell wall is present in fungi, algae and plants. So plant की cell wall को हमने कवर कर लिया. Now we have the cell wall of bacteria. The cell wall of bacteria is composed of peptidoglycan. जिस तरह प्लांट की सेल वॉल सेलुलोज से मिलकर बनी है, इसी तरह बैक्टीरिया की सेल वॉल मिलकर बनी है पेप्टाइडोग्लाइकन से. एंड पेप्टाइडोग्लाइकन itself is made of amino acids which are actually protein subunits and sugar. So बैक्टीरिया की सेल वॉल एक्चुअली मिलकर बनी है प्रोटीन से और शुगर से, और प्रोटीन और शुगर के कॉम्बिनेशन को कहते हैं पेप्टाइडोग्लाइकन. Now here you can, as you can see in the figure, this outer green structure is called capsule. और ये जो inner pink layer है, this is actually cell membrane. और capsule और cell membrane के दरमियान this purple colored structure is actually the cell wall of bacteria. As we had already studied, cell wall is present on the outer side of cell membrane. So in the same way, in the structure of bacteria, cell wall is present on the outside of cell membrane. Next we have cell wall of algae. The cell wall of algae is composed of cellulose. जिस तरह प्लांट की सेल वॉल सेलुलोज से मिलकर बनी है, इसी तरह एल्गी की सेल वॉल भी सेलुलोज से मिलकर बनी है. And cell wall of fungi is composed of chitin. So this is a basic difference between the cell walls of bacteria, fungi, algae and plants. Plant और algae की cell wall मिलकर बनी है cellulose से, जबकि बैक्टीरिया की सेल वॉल मिलकर बनी है पेप्टाइडोग्लाइकन से और फंजाई की सेल वॉल मिलकर बनी है काइटिन से. So this is an important thing. And this concludes our lecture. Thank you for watching.